And now to Israel, where an Israeli soldier was fatally shot in the West Bank city of Hebron on Sunday by a Palestinian sniper. This is the second deadly attack on the Israeli military this weekend. The Israeli army identified the latest victim as 20-year-old Sergeant Gabriel Kobi. He was hit by direct gunfire aimed at soldiers who were guarding thousands of civilians during the Jewish holiday of Sukkot. A graphic video uploaded by the Palestinian Watan news agency claimed to have been taken shortly after Kobi was shot. Soldiers are seen rushing towards the injured soldier, while another shouts repeatedly for a medic. Two women rush towards the soldiers in order to photograph the man on the ground. 48 hours before the Hebron shooting, another Israeli soldier, 20-year-old Sergeant Tomer Hazan, was killed by a Palestinian who reportedly lured him to the West Bank in the hopes that he could trade the body in exchange for the release of his imprisoned brother. Joining me now to discuss this from Tel Aviv is Daniel Nisman, Intelligence Manager at Max Security Solutions. Daniel, always good to have you with us. I want to start by asking you about these two killings in the West Bank, specifically as to whether you think this will affect the peace talks in a very serious nature. What's your perspective on the talks in general, and what do you make of these events?
Thanks, Ahmed, for having me. First of all, always good to be here. I think that both sides, when I say both sides, both leaderships, meaning the Netanyahu administration and Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas, I think that they both are trying very, very hard to keep the peace talks on track. Each side has a lot of different factions right now that are trying to use these incidents of violence to urge their governments to pull out of the talks. For the Israelis, that would be the hawkish, the right-wingers, both within the Likud party and in the Jewish home. And on the Palestinian side, that would be more extremist elements of Mahmoud Abbas's Fatah party, as well as Hamas, Islamic Jihad, so on and so forth. So you've got you've got many incidents of violence that are happening in the West Bank and some in Gaza. Some of them are targeted towards Jews and soldiers, and there have also been incidents of violence where IDF raids against militant groups have also resulted in clashes and deaths in some cases.
And, on that note, Daniel, following the killings, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu allowed Jewish families to live in a contested house in Hebron, and Naftali Bennett called for the re-examination of the government's decision to release Palestinian prisoners, as I'm sure you remember, as part of the U.S. brokered peace effort. What do you make of those developments?
Well, this is usually this is something that the Likud party has a tendency of doing whenever there's a militant attack in the West Bank. They have this kind of ideological way of answering by saying that if the Palestinians do a militant attack, then they'll answer by building. Some people say that it's a political move, some people don't, but in the end, Netanyahu's opponents in the Knesset are saying that he's simply cowering to the more hawkish people in his own party and in the coalition. But in the end, this is a trend that we see after militant attacks. A few months ago, there was an attack against a Jewish settler at the Tepuach Junction near Nablus, and they wanted to also respond by building. And in terms of the prisoner swaps, again. There is a lot of controversy about this in Israel, about, the returning of many Palestinian prisoners in exchange for either, very small numbers of Israeli soldiers, or in the peace talks case, as a bargaining chip. Israel is supposed to release about 100 prisoners and to get the Palestinians to come to the table. And this is not looked over well on the right, but I have to say that the protests that the right-wingers have been trying to stage here have still been very, very small, so that's indicative that a good amount of the population is still actually willing to go along with the prisoner swaps, the prisoner release, as long as the peace talks continue.
And Daniel, before I let you go, there's an anecdote that's certainly worth mentioning. The Palestinian who lured and killed the soldier on Friday was apparently his co-worker at a restaurant. The owner of the restaurant came under attack, as you might imagine, for having hired a Palestinian who did not have a valid working permit. This is something that does seem to be happening more and more. At least we hear about it more and more. How common is that, and what do you make of that kind of nuance there?
Well, it's actually interesting that you brought that up. Israel's security barrier has actually, the one that they built after the Second Intifada has been has been attributed to the sharp decline in terrorism. But it's actually, there are people, illegal workers that are, by the dozens or even hundreds that are crossing this barrier every single day. So it would seem actually that the IDF's very, very proactive security measures and intelligence gathering measures, along with cooperation with the Palestinian Authority, are actually what's thwarting these attacks. The wall, it would seem, or the fence in some places, it would seem, is actually not doing as good a job as thwarting all infiltration, as many people are easily getting in for working purposes. And yes, that person who hired the Palestinian illegal worker is under a lot of pressure. There are people saying that he should be charged with manslaughter or charged with some kind of tacit involvement in this soldier's death for hiring him and giving these people incentive to come here and work in Israel. And among them can be people who are dangerous for security.
Daniel, I know we don't agree on everything when it comes to this topic, nor should we, but, I wish I could only believe that building walls and barriers will make people more secure and bring peace, but I don't.
Well, Ahmed, I agree, but on that, I think we can both definitely agree that we wish that wasn't the case.
Right. And hopefully, this is a hard news story, but you'll join us again so we can discuss all that and more. Daniel, thanks for joining us.
I look forward to it. Thank you.